Hi guys, welcome back to another YouTube video. In this YouTube video, we're going to be discussing how to use UWorld properly. Now, this is a highly requested video because people ask me, how did you manage to score in the 70s and the 80s in your step 1 NBMEs without completing UWorld? They think I'm lying. Well, first of all, I'm not lying. And secondly, UWorld is an amazing resource if used properly. But majority of the time, a lot of the people, they don't use UWorld to its full potential. And today we're going to be doing just that. UWorld is a very complete resource when coupled with the right test taking strategies. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we go on ahead, I want you to take a look at the 2 by 2 table that I've drawn here. It's a play on the Eisenhower Matrix, which is fine. You don't need to know what that is. But it's basically my way of dividing problems and solutions when I am attempting a UWorld question. So, for example, I got a question correct and I knew which topic that was from. Perfect. I would just read the educational objective and I'm going to move on. I'm not going to spend too much time reading through the explanation or dissecting what I already know. Let's take a look at the next column. Now, incorrect, but I knew which topic that was from. This is probably the most frustrating out of all the scenarios because you thought you learned it well, but you got it wrong. Now, you really need to ask yourself why you got it wrong. Did you not understand the question properly? Was there something in the question that threw you off? Was it a silly mistake? Did you not read a word that could have changed the whole answer? This is the point where you really want to question why you got something wrong, which you already know. Let's take a look at the second row. This is where you're going to see the greatest boosts in your scores if you target these areas correctly. Particularly the first column of the second row. You got something right, but you didn't know why you got it right. It could just be a lucky guess, you were tired, you just clicked one option and you got it right. Now, this is very dangerous. Why? First of all, because you have this artificial ego boost thinking that you got it right, but you didn't know the topic at all. It was just a lucky guess. So, I would treat this as something I didn't know at all. And I would spend my good time preparing for this topic, understanding it through and through, and making sure that if anything came up from this topic again, I would get it right the next time. Lastly, is something you got wrong and you didn't know it. This is pretty obvious. You have to go home, hit the books, and come back once you've learned that topic properly. Without further ado, let's start with some real UWorld questions. First of all, I want you to read the last line of the question. Now, this is really important because it saves you a bunch of time understanding what the theme of the question is. In this case, they're asking, what is the next most appropriate step in management? Then you're going to read the answer choices. Here, they've listed a few about what the next possible management option could be. And then you're going to move on to the initial complaint. So, when you're reading the first line, I want you to take note of a couple of things. First of all, note the age of the patient. This is really important. For example, this 6-year-old boy has come for a well child check, which basically means he doesn't have any symptoms at the moment and is just a regular doctor's appointment. Now, as soon as you read the 6-year-old boy, you should have a list of certain pediatric diseases that can pop up. Now, in this scenario, I'm just going to summarize it for you. Everything with the child is normal. He has normal LFTs, he has no symptoms, family history, and past medical history is pretty unremarkable. The only finding that we do have is a common bile duct cyst, which was palpated on examination of the right upper quadrant and was confirmed by MRCP. Now, I want you to slow down. We're not in a rush to answer this question. We're here to understand proper test taking strategies. We do know a few things about the answer already. First of all, it's a child, so this is a pediatric case. Secondly, the system that they're targeting is GIT, and within GIT, they're targeting the hepatopancreatobiliary system. And third, they've already confirmed the diagnosis for us. This is a common bile duct cyst. Now they're just asking what we're going to do with that cyst. You might be saying, we don't know anything about a biliary cyst. How are we going to get this question right? I'll tell you how. I always tell anyone who's answering questions that the answer is hidden within the stem. Let's take a look at the options. There are two broad categories of options here. Either we want to prevent cirrhosis or we want to prevent malignancy. Now, take a second to think. Would a common bile duct cyst situated outside the liver cause cirrhosis, which is an intrahepatic process most of the time? Does this child have any signs and symptoms of cirrhosis or any disease like Wilson's disease or hepatitis that can cause cirrhosis? No. His LFTs are completely normal. Everything else is completely normal. His family history is unremarkable, so we know it's not Wilson's. So I'm just thinking of reasons to exclude two options with one thinking process. And that is if it was truly cirrhosis and we were worried about that, does this child have any signs or symptoms of diseases that can cause cirrhosis? No, he doesn't. So, right off the bat, two options, which included cirrhosis, are gone. We're left with two options, both of them including malignancy: serial abdominal ultrasounds or surgery. Ask yourself this question: what is cheaper and more time efficient? Ultrasound or surgery? Surgery is definitely not cheaper, but it's more time efficient. Ultrasound, on the other hand, it's definitely cheaper, but it's not time efficient because you're bringing that child in every 6 months or a year to screen for malignancy. And if that child does develop a malignancy, you're still going to go for surgery anyway. The cost of that surgery, plus additional chemotherapy, radiotherapy if he needs it, is very high. Now you might be thinking, why are you telling this to me? This doesn't apply to every scenario. This doesn't apply to every question. It doesn't apply to every STEM. However, we're not focusing on every single aspect of medicine at this moment. We're just focusing on this one question that's in front of us. And if I can come up with a logic for this one question, that's all I need to come to an answer. So I've used my reasoning, I used my logical thinking to select an option for this question. This reasoning might not be applicable to the next question or the question after that, but I'll come up with a new train of thought, a new set of reasoning for that question. And that is what the USMLE wants you to do. It wants you to come up with logical decisions, and it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. So, congratulations, you got this question right. Now, let's see what we will do after we get a question right or wrong and how we're going to review it. Scenario number one: you got the question right and you knew which topic it was from. If this is the case, all you need to do is read the educational objective and move on. Scenario number two: you got the question wrong, but you knew which topic it was from. In this case, you're going to first identify why you got that question wrong and what you could have done to prevent yourself from getting that question wrong. And then you're going to read through the whole topic and the explanation and try to understand or cover any gaps in knowledge or identify potential areas of weakness. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. And it would mean the world to me if you could like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, as this would give me enough motivation and fuel to make more videos for you guys. Now, the last row, you got a question right, but it was a complete fluke and you didn't know anything about the topic. The solution is pretty simple. All you have to do is read the topic, use resources from the internet if possible, Do your due diligence and make sure you don't get the question wrong the next time. And what I like to do here, especially in this row, is I like to create Anki cards. I have a whole video on my YouTube channel on how to use Anki. Go watch that if you're free. But in this particular case, if I get a question wrong that I know nothing about, or if it's a lucky guess, I usually make Anki cards for my incorrects and I would review them from time to time.